From the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation, Outdoor Oklahoma.
Hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. You know, when you think of sport fish species, which ones typically come to mind? Probably the largemouth bass, the striped bass, and maybe even a channel cat in there too. But do you add to your list of sport fish the carp? Well, maybe not. But if you've ever hooked onto a carp, you can attest to what a powerful fighter he is. And carp fishing might not have really caught on as a targeted species here in the United States, but over in Europe, carp fishing is big business with all kinds of specialized equipment and even carp fishing tournaments. Well, today we've caught up with a couple Okies that have caught the carp fishing fever. Mr. David Moore and bait boat Charlie Lowry are going to help us learn how to target carp as a species on Hominy Lake in Osage County.
In my opinion, growing up here in Oklahoma, I've yet to find a fish that fights as hard as a carp. You know, with the size and the power that they have. You know, you might fight a carp for 15, 20 minutes, get him almost to the net, and then he'll make another run and pull off 30, 40 yards of line. And it's just amazing what warriors they are. Phenomenal here. We're very fortunate with all the water that we have in this state to go out. I mean, you know, down around the Oklahoma City area, you have Lake Hefner, Ovalhoser, probably the Canadian River. They've done such a good job of damming that up. You could probably go down there and catch carp. They're everywhere. And you know, it doesn't take expensive tackle. These aren't fish that are heavily pressured, so they're not hard to catch. Especially, you know, the smaller ones. Once you get up to the bigger ones, it's a little bit different story. But, you know, all those lakes have potential of going out and catching some fish and having a really good time setting up like this. You don't have to have a boat. You take, you know, the family out, or it's just a great way to get out by yourself and enjoy a nice peaceful evening. On a plastic piece of corn the turtles won't eat. You just see seeing this fish, just the power that it generates, just amazing. There he is. Not as big as that one we had Charlie had during the night. Good fish all the same. Put my net together. Can you hand me that handle that's leaning against that tree up there? the fish to the net. These big nets, you got to bring the fish to it. You get him in, you just pick it up around him. In good shape. Once again, using those unhooking mats. You notice this mesh on this net's very fish friendly. It's kind of a soft mesh. Got some beautiful colors on it though. See the gold on it? There we go. That was the setup that we used. Plastic piece of corn on a hair rig. What we call slightly popped up method. Putting all the mix on that. Got beautiful coloring. You'll catch a lot of fish that have colors like that, but that's a nice, healthy, young fish, and that's what you want to see in a place like this, because you know you're going to have fish for years to come out here. Let's go. That's trained for the camera. Raise that fin up like that. Just gorgeous little fish. All right, we're going to let this fish go. Just because we want him to let other people enjoy him. But once again, that's just beautiful little fish. It's what you call a common carp. Just with the scales, he'll be fine. Be there for somebody else to enjoy. What this is it's called a boilie that's made in England, and it's a dough ball that's formed in a round dough ball like this. That's boiled for a couple minutes, kind of gives it a hard skin on the outside. So it lasts in the water for hours and hours. But these are secret recipes that they've spent years and years and lots of money on developing these baits. So it's highly secretive, and they won't tell you what's in them. We'll put one in here, and this is called a throwing stick. What this tool does is it throws these baits out there. So if you're fishing at distance up to about 100 yards and you want to put your hook bait out there, you can put these out. And it's just a form of chumming. Pretty efficient and effective though. And these type of baits, you don't see them in the States yet, but they don't tend to catch as many fish, but you'll catch bigger fish with them. Here is another tool that we use. This is a baiting spoon. And as you can see, that's what it looks like. It's a spoon or a scoop. And we're going to fish in this particular area just right out here. I want to put a few baits in there. It's that easy. So now we have a lot of baits to attract the fish right into that area where we'll have one hook bait right there. We've talked about these boilies that come packaged from England, and you don't have to have those to catch carp. This is also some specialized corn that's used to catch carp. This actually works great for trout and all kinds of stuff. But just go to your local store is all you need. So this is just cheap old sweet corn. Works great. Throw a handful or two out and put a covered hook with this right in the middle of it. Almost guaranteed to catch fish. Other things you can get that'll help as chum is just range cubes at your local feed store. $4 or $5 for 50 pounds. Same thing with deer corn, field corn. Just be sure and soak this overnight and then boil it. You don't want to throw it out there dry. They don't like that. So you might want to flavor it. You notice this has a little bit of red. After it's boiled, we just add a package of strawberry jello. Just gives it a little bit of flavor. Other things, just pellets that break down and put a scent in the water. Work great. And what we're going to do now is we want to put some of this out at about 80 yards. And one way to get it out is with this, and this is called a spod. And this is just like a rocket, and it will cast, some guys can cast over 100 yards with these easy. But it has some buoyancy in the nose of this, and it's going to fly out just like a rocket. It's going to hit the water, and then the buoyant part of that nose is going to go up, and when it does, all this is just going to fall out and be on the bed of the lake, and the fish will be in there feeding. That's what we're going to do now. Let's fill this up. Cast it out. You can see the yellow part of the nose is floating. Once you see that, just reel it back in. And the reason you do the chumming is it's gonna help you catch a lot more fish, put a lot more fish on the bank. But if you put some of this out, and if you can put this out a day or two before you actually go fishing, it'll just increase your chances of catching fish enormously. And you know, that's what we're after, is to catch some fish.
Okay, what we have here is a bait boat. I built this bait boat, and it's kind of really an offshoot of what they use below Eufaula Dam and Keystone and other dams when they taken for catfishing. Well, this is basically the same boat, but it's a radio control boat. So now I'm ready to launch this little puppy. And this is a good place to launch because I can walk around and don't have to worry about falling in the water. And this gets kind of messy, but we're chumming all the time. I usually use a smaller bucket than this, so I got a lot on the outside, but it washes off. Okay, we got it chummed up. Now, we always give it a little test to make sure the chummer's going to work, so I'm going to push some chum out right here, just a little bit. See it coming out? Well, that's what it's going to do out there. Now all I got to do is turn on the motor. I'm checking my rudder, see if it's working. Now I'm going to turn on the propeller, and away she goes. I can control it from left to the right, or I can hit the chummer. You can see it coming out. I think you can. Okay, it'll take me about 3 to 5 minutes to make a run, and I'm putting out a gallon at a time. And so it's pretty easy if you're really chumming hard to put out 10 or 15 gallons in 2 or 3 days. David's directing me. He's got some lines out there, and he wants me to put this chum out there where it'll help him. The windier it is, the slower it goes out. But right now, I'm chumming a long line for David. It's acting silly right now. I have to put my arrow out. Hope that helps it. Yeah, that did it. My arrow was inside here, and I'd got out of my distance, and now it's working all right. That little round sound like we're out of, yeah, we're out. I don't know if you can hear that or not. When you hear that real high, or that real high pitched sound, you know you're out. So it's time to come home.
We'll be back with more carp fishing at Hominy Lake right after this week's Outdoor News Report.
One of the things that people ask me about is what type of rig do you use to catch these carp? You don't need a big hook. This would be actually on the big size, but I'm going to use it for demonstration purposes. It's a size 2 hook. I believe this one's a Mustad. The size 2 would be probably the biggest you would ever use. A size 6 is a good average size hook. For smaller fish, you might want to go with the size 8. But this is one of the most important things about carp fishing, is this particular rig. It's called a hair rig, and it was invented about 25, 30 years ago over in England, and it just revolutionized carp fishing. Just tie a loop in the end of your braid, or monofilament, it doesn't really matter. It's just a loop like that. And we're going to cut off this tag end, some scissors. Okay, so that's what we have, is just the hook length. And we're going to take our hook run the back end, run the line through the back of the eye of the hook. And the knot that we use is called the knotless knot for the hair rig. So you have that loop running out of the back, on the back side of the hook, on the back of the shank of the hook. And it's going to depend the length that you want, but 1 inch, ½ inch to 1.5 inches is kind of the range that you use, but about 3/4 of an inch is a good length, about the length of a boiler or 2 or 3 pieces of maize that we're going to put on there. And you just take the hook and you just wrap down the shank of the hook 6 or 7 times, just like that. And once you do that, take this hook length and run it through the back of the hook again. Both times you go through the back of the hook. And that just tightens it down on the hook like that, and that's all you need. And then you just put a swivel on this end, just like normal. But that right there will make all the difference in the world in the amount of carp that you catch. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're just going to use regular field corn or deer corn that you buy at the store that's been soaked and boiled again. And this is a special tool also called a baiting needle. And you put this through the bait, just like so. We're going to probably put 3 or 4 pieces on here. You want to be careful with that because sometimes these are sharp. So we're going to put 4 pieces on that needle. Sometimes people convert a real small crochet needle over and get that to work. There's a barb on the end of that, and you put that through the loop, and it hooks on just like that. And then what you want to do is just slide the bait on, just like so. And then you're going to have the loop exposed like that. And then you have these little safety tags that go through here, through the loop, and you push the bait tight back against that loop. Take a pair of fingernail clippers, clip that off, and see, it's got me right there. And that's what happens, is that's sitting on the bottom of the lake. Carp comes by and he just thinks that's food, sucks this into his mouth and then fills the hook. And when he goes to spit that hook out, it's going to get him 9 times out of 10. And that's why this method is so much more effective than covering your hook with a bait. Because if a carp comes by and your hook's covered with that bait, imagine that hook's kind of like a lollipop. He's going to suck it in and he can spit it right back out. But if he sucks this in, when he goes to spit that back out, the hook's exposed. As long as you have a good sharp hook, you're probably going to get him. This particular rig right here is the same maize that we did, but one thing I did different is the last piece is a specific made plastic piece of corn. And what it does is it makes it stand up just like that. It floats. So then you get your corn standing up, which makes it just stand out a little bit more from the ones laying on the bottom. Let's see if we can catch a fish. Okay, we've cast out now, and we're going to put the rod on here, and this is called a rod pod. You don't need a setup like this to catch fish, but it just makes it nice. It's really efficient to fish this way. And you notice we've put the line and the rod in this thing, and this is actually an alarm. And if a fish gets on here, you hear that, it lets you know that there's a fish. And that's why we fish a lot of times. We can be reading a book, we can be taking a nap, sleeping at night, because a lot of times we fish 24/7. And what happens is this little hanger goes on here, clips on your line, and that just kind of keeps your line a little bit tight. Plus, if a fish picks up the bait, swims back towards you, you want to know if you're getting a bite. And that happens once in a while, and that's when that comes in really handy. Something else that we want to cover are these reels that we use. And these are specialized reels used for saltwater fishing actually, and they're bait runner, bait feeders, free liners. You hear all kinds of different different ways that that's described, but what that is there's two clutches. So we just flip this switch and the clutch is on for this to have that free line capability. And when a fish picks that bait up and he takes off, that's just going to unspool. When you pick this rod up and you're ready to play the fish just like normal, you just disengage it that way or crank the handle. That'll do it also. That's what keeps that feature keeps the fish from pulling all your tackle into the lake. Just something great. If you don't have that feature, there's nothing wrong with just loosening your drag and getting the fish on and then just tighten your drag down like normal. That works also. But we've got, this fish will probably go 4 or 5 pounds, and that's a big fish for most people. It's just amazing the amount of power these fish have, even at this size. And I would just about bet they're the hardest fighting fish, pound for pound, that you can find here in Oklahoma. Yeah, it's just like the last one that we had, a little bit smaller. Not quite as much gold on the tail, so I know it's a different fish, but just still beautiful, healthy fish, really healthy. That fish may be just a couple years old, so he's got a long life ahead of him. That's why we want to take good care of him. This technique works fantastic. I can't emphasize enough how great this works on catching catfish. And that's what we're going to take home to eat right there. That's some good eating. If you notice those boilies that are stuck in the basket, that's what they've been eating out there, and that's what we've been fishing, using as a bait for carp. Works great for catfish, and those are just pineapple boilies.
Well, we'd like to thank David and Bait Boat Charlie for showing us a thing or two about carp fishing. For all of us here at the Wildlife Department, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you somewhere new next week on Outdoor Oklahoma.
Slide that back underneath him. Make sure he gets revived a bit. He's ready to go. That fish will be just fine for somebody else to enjoy. Pretty cool.